Hey coders, welcome back. We're getting to the end of our coding contest. There's only a couple big parts of our project left, and then I've got a secret, sneaky one for those that are dedicated. It's a way to make this look really cool. So we'll do that, I think, after this video. So make sure you watch that too. So from game number 7 on our Mission to Mars project, basically the player is going to be controlling the robot to go around and collect some things on the surface of Mars, but it also needs to avoid some malfunctioning robots. So we're going to call them evil robots, some robots that are trying to chase down the player's robot on the surface of Mars. Okay, so let's get started. We're going to first take some code from button 6 and put that onto button 7. So button 7 now knows what to do when the sprite is clicked, except we need to change it. Instead of starting game 6, we're going to start game 7. And let's go to our backdrop. For this one, it's going to be on the surface of Mars, so we can have that the same as game 6's code. So when I receive start game 7, I have to scroll that up a little bit. When I receive start game 7, do the Mars surface. Unfortunately, mine is not very pretty. Hopefully you drew a nicer one than this. But that's what it'll look like when we click on the 7 button. And then we need to add some sprites. So we're going to add 2 sprites here, the robot, and we're going to add the other robot, and we're going to add some rocks to the surface of the Mars. Rocks. Okay. First thing we want to do is rename these. So this is game 7 robot, so we can find that again later. We're going to call these game 7 evil robots. Obviously they're not actually evil, but we're going to call them that. And the rocks here are going to be game 7 rocks. First thing I want to do is change these rocks to look more Martian. So on the rock sprite, come to costumes, and if you just select with your arrow tool, you can, actually let's do the paint bucket. Do the paint bucket tool, pick a nice shade of red for the surface of, to match the Mars surface. Maybe this one in the front we want to be a little bit darker. And so now our rocks look more kind of Martian. That's a quick way to do that. The size on those are too big. Let's do those at size 40. Let's do our evil robots at size 30, and let's do our player robot at size 40. Okay, let's take the code off any one of these other ones. When I receive start game, put that here. When I receive clear everything, put that there. Except this needs to be start game 7, so make sure you come in and change that. This robot, let's start game 7. Okay, let's get rid of that go to random and then copy these blocks of code to the other sprites we're going to use for this project as well, for this game. But I should have done this. Oh yeah, start game 7. Start game 7 and start game 7. Okay, so let's run this, click on the 7, and that's everything we need for this little game. Alright, we're going to introduce something new on this one. Something that you probably haven't done for a while, or at least you haven't done it yet. And that is a control issue called clone. So, I mean, what if we wanted to populate the surface of Mars with a bunch of rocks and a bunch of robots, but we didn't want to have a whole bunch of sprites added to our program? Well, that's exactly what the clone thing is for. So the thing about cloning is you want to get your code as good as you can before you create the clones, so that the clones will all know what to do. Okay, let's think about this. We'll start with the rock one because that's the easiest one. What we want to do is when I receive start game 7, let's do a repeat loop. So that's under control, and think about how many rocks we want to have. Let's say we want to have 5 rocks on the planet, not 45. And what we're going to do is under control again, make a clone of myself. And now under events, under control, when I start as a clone, we need to add some code here as well. So here's where we could just say go to a random position. So now when we receive start game 7, this rock will show up. It'll make 5 clones, and each of those 5 clones, when they're made, will go to a random position. So let's run the flag, click on the 7. All of a sudden we have 6 rocks on the screen. Now why do we have 6 rocks here if we only made 5? Well, that's because we already have 1 on the screen. So notice if you hit the stop sign, 5 of those go away. This is the original rock. Here's what I want to do on this one. I want to put the show under here. So when I start as a clone, go to a random position, then show. So our original rock will stay invisible because it'll hide when the clear everything happens, but the clones will show up. And I'll explain why that's important here after we test this again. So now we have 5 rocks. And 5 rocks. Okay. The reason why I want to keep the original one hidden is because we're going to add some extra code down here for some clones, but we don't want to duplicate the code. So we're going to have some code here and the exact same code here so that the clones do something, but the original also does something. It's way easier just to keep the original hidden and it not do anything and just apply the code to the clones. The rocks, unfortunately though, are not actually going to be doing anything, and so we're just going to leave those codes alone, but hopefully you understand the concept. Okay, what we want to do is create clones of these evil robots, and then when you use that, if we hit stop, you'll see those rocks will disappear because those are all the clones. We want to clone these robots. Okay, but before let's not do it before, let's just do it now. Control, repeat. Think about how many robots you want to have on the screen. Pull that. Let's see, I'm putting that in the wrong spot. We want to repeat on the start game block. We want to leave this hide over here. Well, I think how many evil robots we want to have. Let's just start with 2. And when inside that repeat loop, we're going to create a clone of myself. So this will repeat 2 times. And when I start as a clone, let's hit show. Let me break this off for a second. Watch what happens here with this number 7. So what happened is nothing happened when it received clear everything, but when start game 7 happened, it created 2 clones of itself, and those clones, when they started, showed themselves. So if you look right here, there's actually 3 robots all in the exact same spot now. 2 of these are clones, so if I hit the stop sign, 2 of those disappeared, but the original was left. But the clone takes the exact properties of everything around it. That's why we want to hide that one and show these ones, but start them in a random position. Otherwise they'll always be on top of each other. So here they are, random positions, and there's only 2 because the original is going to stay hidden. So if we wanted to make 5 clones, we could just do that, run it again, and now we have 5 robots. Now the nice thing about these evil robots is there's actually different costumes on this one, and so maybe under looks, inside this repeat loop, we could switch costumes after you make the clone. So now when we run it, it will make a clone, switch the costume, and then make another clone, except the new clone, because it keeps the properties of the original, will have that new costume. So I can just run that real quick right here. Every time I run this, it's going to make 5 new clones, and it's going to switch costumes each time. Unfortunately, this sprite doesn't have 5 new costumes. Okay, so when we hit the green flag, when we hit 7, it creates 5 clones, and some of them repeat, but it tries to get all the different costumes that it can. Okay, 5 clones. Let's decide what these clones are going to do. These evil robots want to chase down the player's robot. And so, what they're going to do is, we'll do this one. What we want to do is turn towards, point towards, okay, no. Let's do, these are going to need a forever loop. So come to control and do a forever loop. When I start as a clone, go to random position, show, go to forever, point towards mouse pointer. And, this will be, I'll show you a trick on this one too. So point towards the mouse pointer, And then let's put a wait in here, a delay of say 0.5 seconds, and then a move 10. Let's do wait 1 second and move 10 steps. Okay, so what this will do is these robots are going to point towards, not the mouse pointer, let's point towards Game 7 robot. Wait 1 second and then move. So click on 7, they're going to wait, they're going to move. They're going to wait, they're going to move. They're going to turn, they're going to move. And these robots are slowly but surely moving in onto the player's robot. Now we don't have this robot moving around yet, but you can see how we're basically building a little bit of artificial intelligence, because these robots are going to do the math it takes to come after the player's robot. There's a little bit of a problem though. Do you see how some of the robots are like upside down? That doesn't look very good. So let's stop our game and come to the evil robots. And before we create the clones, let's set, I think it is under movement, yeah, set rotation style. We don't want these things to rotate at all. So when I receive start game 7, set the rotation style to don't rotate. And now, even though they're pointing towards the player's robot, they won't actually spin around. Okay. And that looks a little bit better, like they're always on their wheels or something like that. Okay, now the robots are moving in. Now, those are obviously moving a little bit too slowly. So let's decrease that wait second, the wait delay, and now the robots will be moving a lot more quickly towards the player's robot. Okay, let's add in some code for the player's robot. The player's robot, it'd be really easy to do when I receive start game 7 to do a forever loop here that says motion go to mouse pointer. Okay, but then that robot is actually a little bit too fast. Okay, so what I think I want to do instead is the players control which direction the robot needs to go, but the robot has its own speed limitations as well. So instead of going to mouse pointer, let's point towards the mouse pointer, but let's also set the rotation style to don't rotate. And then let's have a control statement where we're going to wait 0.2 seconds, and then motion, we're going to move 5 steps. What do we have the evil robots doing? 10 steps? We can have our robot move 10 steps too. And notice I've made the delay here smaller, so this robot should go a little bit faster than the evil robots. But do you see how the player's robot is following around the mouse cursor? Alright, we're about done with this one. What we need to do is some collision detection though, because what will end up happening is these robots will always be bunched up in a group like that eventually as the player goes round and round and round. And I actually thought that waiting 0.2 made the player's robot a little bit too slow. So let's see what happens if you don't wait at all. I think that looks pretty good for the robot. And maybe what we want to do too is under looks on the player robot, maybe we can do a next costume. And it's going to be a little bit crazy here as the robot is constantly changing costumes. But that's pretty good. Okay, let's do something for the robot, the player's robot to collect. So let's do a star. Add that to our thing here. Rename it. This is going to be Game 7 Star. And it's going to be the similar code as for the rocks. Okay, so let's bring this down here. And let's bring this down here. And let's bring this down here. And now our star will do exactly the same thing that the rocks did, which is now there's 5 stars on the screen. Okay? We're going to add a forever loop onto the stars, which will be, what we're going to need to do on these ones is a couple of forever loops, but these will be okay because you'll see why. So we're going to do an event here. Nope, a control, a forever loop. So each clone will have a forever loop, and what we want to do is we're going to just check to see if it's touching the player's robot. So that's under sensing. And if touching, This is Game 7 Robot. Then, let's do under Control, we're just going to delete this clone. So yeah, we have a forever loop, but every time it touches the star, it's going to get rid of that. Oh, you see what I did there? I put it on the wrong code. I'm deleting the rocks. Let's get rid of that. That needs to be on the star, not the rocks. Okay. So now it's on the star. Attach it to the stars when I start as a clone blocks. And now, when we touch the stars, those star clones will disappear. Okay, so we have a little bit more to do. Let's have a variable though. Okay, let's do a variable. Here we're going to call this star points. Okay, for all sprites. Leave that bottom one alone. Star points, right now it's set to 0. Come to this Game 7 robot. When I receive start Game 7, let's set star points to 0. And you know how we put this robot in a forever loop? What if we had, every time you collect a star, that increases that score by 1, and it's going to do this loop not forever, but it's going to repeat until our variable, we need operators. Let's do equals. So now our variable, star points equals, and then 5, because we have 5 stars on the screen. And instead of the forever loop, bring this code over here. Now we still need to do something, because we're going to repeat this loop until star points equals 5, which right now it'll be forever, because there's nothing in our program that'll change that from 0 to 5. Come back to the star. When I start as a clone, if touching Game Robot 7, then let's change star points by 1. So now watch as our player goes around and touches the stars. It goes to 1, and 2, and then 3, and then 4, and then 5, and now our robot stops moving. Okay, now let's do on Game 7 Evil. So forever point towards Game 7, wait 0.4 seconds, move 10. Let's do that same block of code over here, except control, repeat until operators equals the variable star points equals 5, and then repeat until star points equals 5. So instead of our forever loop, what we're going to do for the clones of the evil robots is, as soon as the star points equals 5, these robots are going to stop walking towards the player's robots. They're just going to disappear off the screen. Okay, so try Game 7. Pick up the star, pick up the star, pick up the star. Watch these robots disappear. Boom. Because after they've moved, it checked to see that the star points are 5, and then they get deleted off the screen. Okay, on our player robot, we need to say success for 2 seconds, and then broadcast, clear everything, and broadcast main, go to main screen. Okay, now that shall work, except that this game's a little bit too easy, right? We picked up all the stars. Let's turn this checkpoint off. We don't need to see that. Command 7 again. Huh. Do you see a problem here with the rocks? Every time we do Game 7 again, it just every rock makes 5 clones of the rocks. We gotta solve that problem. Come to the Game 7 rocks. When I receive start Game 7, when I receive clear everything, let's do delete this clone. That should work. Let's try Game 7. Get these stars real quick. And that should get rid of the extra rocks. Yeah, now there's only 5 again. And success. Game 7. Okay, this game is a little bit too easy with regards to the evil robots. Robots don't actually do anything when they touch you. I'm going to let you solve that problem on your own, but I do want to make the Game 7 robots a little bit smarter so that the player can actually be a little bit more strategic. So what we want to do is this repeat until star points equals 5 is looping for all of these evil robots. I want to add a check in here to see, let's use those rocks as an obstacle. So under sensing, touching rock. Now the nice thing about clones is even though there's 5 different rocks on the screen, it's going to handle it as if it's all just one thing. So Game 7 rocks. If it's touching Game 7 rocks, let's do move backwards 10 steps. Maybe I want that to be 5 here too. And maybe let's try this one. So Game 7. Watch what happens when the robots hit the rocks. Do you see how that one's bouncing on the rocks? Bouncing on the rocks. Let's change that back to a 10. If you make it so that the robots bounce off of the rocks, then the player can use the rocks as a strategy to keep away from the evil ones. I'm going to make this a -15 and try it again. So now, do you see these rocks these robots down here that are hitting the rocks? They keep trying to hit it. Okay, and I think that's pretty much how we want to leave this one. Like I said, you could add something in here to make the program a little bit more challenging. For example, every time the evil robot touches the player's robot, it restarts the level. Wouldn't be that hard to do, just broadcast start Game 7 kind of a thing. But I'll leave that up to you. But you should have seen how cloning works now to make a really cool effect with just a little bit of coding.